All right, welcome into the Five Reasons Sports NHL Stanley Cup Preview. I'm David Eversole, joined by our usual suspects. I got Alex Baumgartner, our lead Panthers writer, Colby Guy as well, covering the team, and a special guest covering the Edmonton Oilers. We have Avry Lewis-McDougall. So good to have you guys here with us. Really excited for this series. Seems like we've been waiting a long time for this to get underway. So game one from Sunrise is obviously on Saturday. So we have a lot to go over in this matchup and what projects to be a very good series. Obviously, Edmonton has a lot of star power in their forward group and as well as the Panthers. So we're really excited to break down this matchup and give you some of the key things to look for as this series progresses. So want to thank everybody for watching. And we're going to get this started looking at the Panthers side of this. Obviously, after the long rest, Alex, how do you think this team comes out in game one? We've seen them sometimes after these layoffs look a little bit flat. So what do you expect from the Panthers early on Saturday?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between this year and last year with that long layoff, because they had long layoffs for both conference final to cup final, Edmonton's had the same amount of layoff, and the Panthers aren't nursing a lot of injuries like they did against last year going into the night series. They also have the home ice, which should help a little bit. They haven't had to travel in a while, so that could play a part in it coming into game one. I think it was Mark Messier. It was either Messier or Gretzky that said a couple weeks ago, I've never too much rest never hurt us. So the long rest, they're probably happy for it, but they're also probably ready to get going.
Yeah, Colby, what do you think of the Panthers game one? What's the key for them to get out early and have some success against a really powerful Edmonton team? And then I'm going to have Avry touch on some of the guys to look for on the Edmonton side.
Yeah, I mean, for the Panthers, it just means coming out and playing their game, being aggressive on the forecheck and trying to wear the Edmonton Oilers down with their physicality, like we've seen them do with the New York Rangers, like we've seen them do against the Boston Bruins, and so on. Is that they're very good when it comes to starting games, building off chances off the forecheck, and kind of wearing their opponent down. And if they're able to kind of get on the offensive there and play that physical style of game and try to wear them down pretty early, that's going to be a pretty good opportunity to get an early lead in this series. So I think that's one of the main things. And you obviously have to be aware of the big guns like Connor McDavid, and you can't get too comfortable up there playing that offensive game, and you have to be able to get back there and kind of match that speed going back the other way. So just try to establish puck possession and get in on the forecheck there.
Yeah, Avry, I want to go to you. Obviously, I know Connor McDavid gets a ton of attention, but they have another star up there in Edmonton, and Leon Draisaitl. So he's going to be centering that second line. I want to talk about him in that matchup with the Panthers' second line center and Sam Bennett. What do you see that group's key to success being?
Honestly, for Leon Draisaitl, he's one of the kind of guys in which the Panthers are going to have to find a way to slow down that one-timer, because we've seen so many times Draisaitl gets that circle, or gets that shot off. It's going to be key for Bennett and co. to get active sticks in the shooting lanes, prevent Draisaitl from getting that shot off. And also, too, people know Leon for his one-timer, but he's a great passer as well, too. If you can limit Leon being dynamic, you have a great chance for your Florida, I think, in my mind, David.
Yeah, Edmonton has 4 of the 5 top scorers in the playoffs. They have a lot of firepower. I want to talk about Avry. Somebody that might not be a household name to some other fans is Evan Bouchard. He's had a fantastic series on the blue line there for Edmonton. So what do you think makes him so good? If you compare him to one of the Panthers, you kind of look at Gustav Forsling, but Bouchard has been one of the best players in the playoffs overall. So what do you think is some of his contributions in this series against a real tough Panthers forecheck?
Really for watching M. Bouchard over the past couple of years here, he's someone who I've been a massive fan of. I've watched his development from year one to now. And defensively, he is someone who at first defensively had a little bit his misgivings. He struggled in his own end of the ice. But watching M. Bouchard and what his challenges are is his shot from the point is such a challenging thing for anyone to really handle. It was tough for Vancouver. It was challenging for Dallas, for LA. So he's the kind of guy in which for Florida, watching from the points made a big thing to try and handle. And he's been getting better defensively in his own end of the ice. He's played most of this season on a pairing with Matthias Ekholm. And one of the big things, you look at the advanced stats, guys. When Bouchard and Ekholm are on the ice at the exact same time, they give up so few goals. So it's going to be key for the Panthers to find ways to get pucks in deep and get pucks on net, because with Bouchard and Ekholm as a pairing, they really surrender a goal either at even strength or when they're down a man.
Yeah, Alex, I want to talk about the Panthers versus a really, really good Edmonton penalty kill. They were the top penalty killing unit in the regular season. They've been the top penalty killing unit again in the playoffs. So what are some of the things the Panthers have to do in order to capitalize with the man advantage? Because I think, with such an even 5-on-5 projection, I think the power play is going to be key for Florida in this series.
Well, yeah, going into the New York series, we said you got to win your special teams battles. New York was second in the penalty kill. Florida was third. Obviously, Edmonton was first, and they had a spectacular series against Dallas. But the Panthers just have to kind of stick to what they've been doing. They had some success against New York, even though the Rangers did have a couple shorthanded goals against the Panthers. The Panthers were able to kind of bounce back from that and not let a very effective penalty kill kind of derail them even while giving up shorthanded goals. So they're going to have to try and keep doing what they did against the Rangers. We remember that overtime, I think it was game 4 win. They scored 12 seconds into the power play in overtime. That was just, getting bodies moving, kind of cycling out of their normal Sam Reinhart in the bumper position to kind of confuse the Rangers defense. And I think I haven't watched too much in depth of the Oilers penalty kill, whereas I've seen a lot of the Rangers. When the Rangers got aggressive, Florida caught them pretty easily. Like Jacob Trouba trying to, run to the half board to try and stop Barkov. If the Panthers can kind of get away from that, then the ice will start to open up. But once again, that's more of an Avry. How does Edmonton set up their penalty kill comparative to how the Rangers did, where they were very aggressive more often than not?
Yeah,
You mentioned penalty kill. One thing about with the Oilers penalty kill is that they really sit back. When you watch them on a penalty kill, they're very aggressive. They're trying to get six in the active lane. They're coming towards the shooter. Rarely do you see them sit back. It was something they used to do a lot of. But when they're on the penalty kill, they're making the puck handler make a decision quicker than they want to. It's been very effective.
Yeah, and I think obviously the goaltending on both sides is going to be a big factor in this game. I think Skinner's kind of been getting a bad rap, and we're going to get a little bit more into him. But Colby, I want to talk to you about Sergei Bobrovsky. 908 save percentage, 2.20 goals against. So what are some of the keys for Bob in this series against a very formidable top 2 lines for Edmonton?
I mean, the thing with Sergei Bobrovsky is that he's been making a lot of the high danger saves. It's just that the amount of chances and the quality of chances at times hasn't been that heavy. So this might be the first series you kind of see him have to deal with a heavier workload on the scoring chances wise and shots wise. And it's all about just kind of continuing to play the game that he's been, because the numbers don't say it, but he's been very consistent and probably one of the better goaltenders in the league. Just maybe a couple of goals there that you can't necessarily blame him for a game like some other guys. But as far as just handling the volume goes, it's kind of just go out there and keep the same mindset and make the same saves that you make day in and day out. I mean, that's kind of been his MO since he's gotten here. So it's all about trying to handle the amount of chances the Oilers would generate if they're able to kind of break through that defensive system the Panthers have.
Yeah, and Avry, the numbers for Skinner haven't been great in the playoffs. 897 save percentage, 2.50 goals against. What are some of the things that we should look for in terms of getting success against him? Obviously, no goalie really likes traffic in front of the net. But, what are some of the things that you've seen from Skinner in terms of his play and maybe things that would go in the Panthers' way in terms of attacking him?
Honestly, with Stuart Skinner, one of the big things in the earlier rounds was him giving up shots from actually far out. Like, actually, if you look at his numbers, he made a lot of high danger saves. It was shots from the point and beyond that really he really struggled with, which is kind of funny. You would think in tight he would struggle more, but no, he makes more high danger saves. So really, getting shots from everywhere and from the point is really the big Achilles heel for Stuart Skinner, because as the postseason's gone on, he's made more high danger saves. He's made bigger saves in which he's allowing less rebounds. As glove hand has been playing really well, he made some big glove saves against Dallas. So really for Florida, it's more a matter of, like it was mentioned before, getting shots through traffic and getting shots from the point, getting shots that you can't see as well. That's going to be the big thing to being Stuart Skinner, I think, if you're the Panthers and Paul Maurice and company.
Yeah, I want to see Montour get a little bit more involved on the offensive end. And obviously Forsling, he's known obviously as a great defensive player, probably top 5 in the league. I think a future Norris Trophy candidate for sure. But the matchup that everybody is focusing on, obviously, is going to be the two top centers, McDavid versus Barkov. So, Alex, what do you think in that matchup is going to be a key, especially for Sasha? Just kind of, you're not going to shut down McDavid. Obviously, he's just too good. But, Selke Trophy winner, Barkov's, the best two-way player in the league. So this is really, really going to be a critical matchup. So what do you see from these two top-line centers in this one?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a hockey fan, this is the matchup you're looking for. You have, for me, the most skilled player to ever play hockey in Connor McDavid, by far the most skilled player currently, against Alexander Barkov, who I think is the most complete player in the National Hockey League. He's only the 10th player in NHL history to win a Selke more than twice, and I don't think he's done yet. He's been a defensive monster against everyone he's played against in the playoffs. It's really I wouldn't say a coming out party, but more of a, I really am that guy at all ends of the ice party for him. And I mean, there's just not enough words to say what Connor McDavid can do with the hockey puck. So that's, Barkov's going to have to get in his grill. Sam Reinhart's a very underrated player on that line that's going to have to disrupt them. He's probably sticking with Barkov most of that series if Maurice doesn't change his lines. Keep in mind, 4th most votes in the Selke race this year for Reinhart, including the 2nd most first place vote. So by no means is Sam Reinhart going to be underlooked by the Oilers when they're game planning. But it's Connor McDavid. Depending on what they do, if they want to throw Draisaitl up there, because they've done that a couple times, maybe Maurice wants to slide Reinhart down. It's going to be very interesting how they try and match up, because it's not just McDavid. You got to worry about Draisaitl. The defensemen specifically are going to have to watch Nugent Hopkins, Zach Hyman right in front of the grill. The Panthers went out and got bigger defensemen in the offseason, and that's the perfect guy you got to watch, kind of sneaky like Marchessault, where he's not that big, but, man, he's going to make you pay. So it's going to be more than McDavid, but McDavid and Barkov's the matchup that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, Colby, I want to get to somebody that may be under the radar. Then I'm going to talk to Avry about the Edmonton blue line. But who's your under-the-radar player for the Panthers that you think is going to have an impact in this series?
Honestly, I'd say it's Eetu Luostarinen, just because he wasn't there during the Stanley Cup final last year, and that's kind of when the penalty kill really tanked for the Panthers in that series. But you have a guy there in Eetu Luostarinen who's going to play a very big role in the penalty kill against the power play that's going to cause a lot of problems potentially. So having a guy like that in the series where he has a big reach, he gets aggressive in those passing lanes, you're going to need him to be on the top of his game in this kind of series. So he's the guy I'd want to look towards as far as one guy to really zero in on, and one guy who can really impact the way the series goes, because if he's on one and he's playing well in the penalty kill, that's going to cause some pretty big problems with the Oilers. So I think that's your big guy to watch.
Yeah, and I think the 3rd and 4th lines are going to be pretty important for the Panthers. So, Avry, I was going through some of the numbers for Edmonton, and one that really jumped out to me is defenseman Darnell Nurse. He's a -13 in the playoffs. It seems like a real outlier compared to obviously some of the other plus minuses on the Edmonton team. So what's going on with him in terms of his situations, and why the puck seems to go in the net when he's on the ice?
Honestly, there have been at times some very strange bounces where pucks have gone in off Darnell and by no fault of his own, somehow in the back of the net. So it's been a mix of bad luck, but also bad positioning. And also his pairing with Cody Ceci. Those are two guys who don't mesh together well as a pairing because it's clear at times Darnell Nurse feels like he has to do everything when really his game is all about being physical and carrying the puck into the offensive zone because he's a very strong offensive D-man. It's almost like having 4 forwards when he wants to carry the puck into the offensive zone. So really, I think for Chris Knoblauch, it's a matter of separating the Cody Ceci Darnell Nurse pairing, and you will get more out of Darnell Nurse because those two together don't really mesh, and it's been a thing that the team has gone back to far too often. So I think for real success, Oilers going to have to separate Nurse and Ceci because if Darnell Nurse tries to do too much again in his own end, that's when there's trouble for Edmonton, I feel.
I was reading that Edmonton might be shaking up some of those third and fourth lines. Can you give us any insight into some of those possible movements among the the bottom 6 forwards?
I know there's possibility. I know two guys that Chris Knoblauch likes to interchange every so often. Guys like Derek Ryan and Sam Carrick. Those are guys who we've seen get moved in and out of the roster quite some time. I know he's not a true bottom 6 guy anymore, but Ryan McLeod gets moved in there as well too. So I would expect most likely for game 1, you're going to possibly see, I personally think maybe Sam Carrick gets a look in game 1. He's a decent face-off guy. He's physical. But I do think if Carrick doesn't bring enough, you're going to possibly see Knoblauch tinker with that because one thing with Chris Knoblauch, if things don't work, he doesn't let players play themselves into bad situations for very long. So I could definitely see a rotation of in the bottom 6, Sam Carrick and Derek Ryan at forward, depending on what he needs going forward in this series here, David.
Yeah, and Alex, do you think Ryan Lomberg might be back in the fourth line for game 1? I know obviously he didn't get so much run in the last round versus the Rangers, but I feel like his speed could be a real advantage against those third and fourth line forwards for Edmonton. So I know like the guys like Okposo and Stanley have been really, really solid for the fourth line for the Panthers. Like, it's been a good line. So what do you feel like bringing Ryan Lomberg might do for the Panthers?
Yeah, the Panthers, their top 9's been set. It's their 60 has been set the entire year when there's no injury or suspension. So really the only in and outs of the lineup have been that fourth line, the wingers. Kevin Stenlund's not going anywhere. So you have Kyle Okposo and Steven Lorentz who have kind of come in and out as a pair, while Nick Cousins and Ryan Lomberg were the others. Now, I do know I wasn't at practice yesterday, but I believe Lomberg and Lorentz were going in and out on the fourth line while Okposo was staying there. I don't know if Nick Cousins also got any reps, but I would expect Kyle Okposo to be in the lineup just because he's been more than what they bargained for when they got him at the trade deadline. Ryan Lomberg brings a little bit more of an offensive touch. He loves throwing the body. Steven Lorentz brings more of a larger presence. He's a big guy, but Ryan Lomberg doesn't, what am I trying to say? Ryan Lomberg doesn't necessarily show less of that physicality despite being 5'9", where Lorentz is like 6'4", 6'5". So if they're staying with the status quo of not pulling guys after good performances, they're going to keep Lorentz in for game 1. But based off of Maurice kind of throwing Lomberg in the mix last practice, I wouldn't be surprised if they shake it up a little bit. Now, he's mentioned that these fourth line guys aren't necessarily going to change the outcome of the game, might bring a little bit more energy. So I do expect Lomberg to play at some point during this series, whether that's game 1 or after that. But yeah, I mean, I like Okposo there. Stenlund is more than a fourth line center. He's a great penalty killer for them. The fourth line necessarily doesn't play too much for Florida, but depending on how this series goes, they might activate them a little more. They did that a lot against New York, where they kind of sat them the first 2 periods, and then all of a sudden they wanted some fresher legs to bring that forecheck and that physicality, which Maurice likes to do. And then all of a sudden, you see the fourth line taking their normal shifts. So that's something to look out for, and they'll take their practices tomorrow at Media Day.
Yeah, Maurice really trusts that fourth line. So I'm curious to see how much they're matching up with certain guys. Colby, Gustav Forsling obviously has been incredible throughout the playoffs. How do you see him, trying to slow down this Edmonton attack on the defensive end?
I mean, he's just one of the fastest guys you can get on the defensive end, and he has one of the best defensive sticks. And I mean, you saw it during the Rangers series. I mean, anytime the Rangers were trying to break it into the offensive zone, he kind of caught up with whoever was breaking it in and kind of killed it before they could even get there. So the key for him is to kind of try to track those plays and key them in off the rush. And he has one of the best gaps out of any defenseman in the league too. His gap control is really good. So anything that kind of comes in off the wing, he's able to kind of go in there and kill it off. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to keep up with a guy like Connor McDavid or a lot of the speedy guys that they have on the wing. But that's going to be a key guy to watch this series. And he's going to have to shoulder a big role defensively.
Yeah, and Avry, we talked about the Edmonton PK, but give us a little bit of a breakdown of that power play. Obviously, they got a lot of high-powered weapons. So give us a little overview of how Edmonton likes to attack with the man advantage. And then we're going to go around and get everybody's series predictions.
One of the big things with the power play is that they like to always stay in motion. The cycle is always going, and there's always someone moving towards the net. It's never stationary, and the puck is always in motion. You're almost always going to see at least 3 to 4 passes before a shot comes off. It kind of disorients any penalty kill, no matter who it is. And there's a few different looks. If they try to get the puck usually to the net towards Zach Hyman, and that doesn't work. They try to get back to the point, Devin Bouchard, or set up that one-timer to Leon Draisaitl. There's about 3 or 4 different options this team likes to have, and so many teams are able to stop it because you stop McDavid, okay, there's still Draisaitl to deal with. There's still Bouchard to deal with, and it's always in perpetual motion. So for the Panthers, it's going to be a really big thing just getting your stick in the way, deterring passes, because beyond that, there really isn't too much teams can really do beyond try to break up a pass here and there, because it's tough to try and stop guys like Hyman, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins moving at the exact same time, looking for the best option at the front of the net.
Yeah, those top 4 forwards have been great, and Nugent Hopkins has been excellent on the power play as well. So I feel like these two teams, not to say they're mirror images over, but there's a lot of similarities with these teams. Big, fast, skilled, physical forwards. You know, they play a real sharp offensive game with the man advantage, solid penalty killing. I feel like Florida has a little bit more depth on the blue line, but I think that the top 9 for both teams are really, really excellent. And it's going to be a very close, competitive series. So I want to go around the panel first to get everybody's predictions. So I'm going to go around clockwise. Colby, what's your series prediction for this one?
I'd say the Panthers win this one in 7 games. It's going to be a very good series, and there are going to be a couple of games where Connor McDavid finds a way to take over. But, I mean, in the end, this Panthers team is very physical, can get in on the forecheck, and kind of plays that exact style of game that you want to play in the playoffs. And with the experience and the talent this team has, I can see a guy like Matthew Tkachuk pulling up and having a very good Game 7 performance to push the Panthers over the edge here.
Yeah, the numbers have been great. I mean, he hasn't been putting up the goals and the assists, but if you just look at how they are with him on the ice versus without Tkachuk on the ice, it's a huge disparity. So I think we see a couple more impact plays from Tkachuk in this series. Alex, what's your prediction?
Yeah, the running joke or the running bit on this channel the last 2 years is I don't make predictions because every time I predict something, I'm wrong. I stopped making NHL ballots because the bubble year I went 0-4 in the first round, so I haven't made a prediction
That's
since.
hard.
I think I know very so.
That's hard to do.
Both fan bases can be thankful that I'm not predicting anything for the other team, but for objectivity and for what I think is going to happen, I'm going to say it goes at least 6. I think it does go 6. I won't say who I think is going to win. You're
Fair
welcome.
enough.
All fan bases.
Got it. Avery, obviously, I know you're tight with the Edmonton contingent there, but what's your rational prediction for this series with 2 really, really good teams?
Honestly, I think to echo what Colby and Alex said, this is going to go at least 6 games, and I'm going to say this goes Edmonton in 7. Florida's going to find. I think there'll be a couple of games where Florida will find a way to slow down Edmonton. They're too good of a team to not find a way to do it for at least a couple of games with guys like Barkov, like guys like Kachuk. They'll find a way to get that done. But I think if Edmonton is able to again get McDavid going off, get Hyman happening. And if they're able to get a few more solid games where Stuart Skinner does steal a game like he did against Dallas in game 6, where he faced what felt like 500 shots and emptied up only 10, I think if he can steal a game and that top 9 is doing their thing, I'm going to go Edmonton 7 in this series.
Yeah, Skinner's definitely an X factor. You could get 5 goals against Skinner, or you could get a shutout from him. It could be a feast or famine. But Florida's been really, really good on the road. Obviously, we know they have the home ice advantage, but I feel like Florida could definitely steal a game on the road. And I think that game is going to be game 6 in Edmonton. So I'm going to take the Panthers in 6. To win versus Edmonton and bring home their first cup. And it's going to be an exciting series regardless. I think these teams have gotten this far just by sheer determination, a lot of skill. They both have excellent coaches. I feel like Paul Maurice has pushed all the right buttons, not only with his players, but just kind of the overall tenor of the team. It seems like they're loose, they're confident. It's a really, really tight group. And with that experience last year, obviously with their run to the finals, I feel like it gives them just a little bit of a leg up in what projects to be a very, very even series. So we're excited to get this underway. Obviously, game 1 on Saturday, excuse me. So I want to thank Avry for joining us, and Alex and Colby, of course. Make sure to follow the Fifth Line for more coverage, and we're going to be breaking down these games along the way. So I want to thank you guys and everybody for watching.